Welcome to Wild Pursuits with Cross Trail Outfitters, where we guide the next generation to Christ through the outdoors. Join us around the campfire as we share stories of faith, courage, and adventure. Welcome, everybody. We are excited that you're here with Wild Pursuits podcast. We are in a really special place here tonight, and I've got some pretty special men to be with us here today, and we're excited that you're here to hear some impactful stories once again around the campfire. And the place that we're sitting at, you can't really see it all, but you can kind of see around us. We're in my actual personal bunkhouse at my personal house that is pretty much CTO storage shed for the most part / workout facility. But these three young men right here not only spent many hours here in this place. That's why we chose to come here to be a part of this. These three young men, I keep saying young men, but really you're men now. Got Kyle, Parker, and Will with us today, have pretty much grown up in CTO. They all now are guides for CTO. They are volunteers, they're supporters. They do all kinds of things in CTO. And I just wanted you all to hear from them today, kind of their own story of how they got plugged into CTO and some impactful moments in their lives through CTO and the campfire times, the hunting stories. And I've already told all three of them that they have to keep this rated properly because these boys have always loved to have a good time and fun, and they have a brotherhood that's really special. If you can see behind there, they've got a little plaque over Kyle's head there that says the boys. They always called themselves the boys, and they weren't the only ones. There was 3 or 4 other guys that came here and utilized this place as a kind of a clubhouse, so to speak, and spent time here, fellowship here. They grew spiritually here. They worked out here. They did all kinds of stuff. They played video games here. They shot squirrels here and a variety of other things. Just a lot of fun times here. So that's why we're here today. So really, there's no order here, guys. This is really just laid back. I know you guys all of a sudden got serious when we started talking. And you're like, oh no, now what? But I really do. I want to kind of just start by telling, first of all, my part of my story with these young men. When I started CTO almost 17 years ago, these guys here are probably some of the first, I would say the first 15, 20 kids that were in CTO Missouri that got plugged in and really got heavily involved at a young age. And so they're very, very special to me. But they're also special to me because I've just watched them grow in their life. I've watched the ups, I've watched the downs, I've watched good choices, I've watched bad choices as they're now grinning. But now they are in good relationships. They're married. Will's a father and was very fortunate enough also to officiate Parker's wedding this last summer. So that was very, very exciting. So there's a lot of personal things in my life that each one of these young men mean a lot to me and to my wife, Jennifer. And we miss having you around here, believe it or not, as much as I worked you to death at times, but also gave you a hard time, but at the same time had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun together. I do miss having these guys around, but now they're out in the world giving back, growing their families and growing in their relationships and giving back to how people gave back to them. So, guys, first question for you is I'd like for you to kind of start. We'll kind of go serious first. What was kind of one of the most impactful times that you can remember in your entire, I guess you want to call it a career in CTO? I know you've got lots of them, because I know if I could sit here and probably do a whole podcast, just me talking and go each one of you and tell you story after story after story. I mean, there's properties that have their names on deer stands and blinds and things of that nature. So Parker's got a stand named after him on my personal property, which is not necessarily a good thing because we pride ourselves a little bit in our shot placement training that we do in CTO with tic-tac-toe, and he's known for How many misses, Parker?
Out of that stand, I think it's 3 or 4, something like that.
So that's how he got his name, from all the misses. And every time I came and tracked this mysterious deer that he swore he shot, that we never could find a drop of blood. So just exciting times with that. So tell me, God, it doesn't matter who goes first. Just if God lays something on your heart, what was one of the most impactful moments that you had in CTO?
I guess I'll start us
Kyle's
off.
Go first.
I'd probably say 2015 summer camp for me. I was going through a lot, and dealing with a lot of resentment and hatred towards my dad, as you remember, and since I had never met him, and building that cross up there. That was the year we built the cross, punishment path, which it's not a punishment now. But building that, and then we were just cooking breakfast, and I felt the Holy Spirit come on to me, and I just started bawling and pulled Kirk aside and said I wanted to forgive my father and all that. And we talked about it and prayed, and just that brotherhood and knowing that safety that you have in that group of guys, and that you can trust them and be a part of them, and there's not going to be any judgment or anything like that. And not being afraid to being a guy. They always say don't cry. It's not manly to cry, but if you're actually really passionate about something and care about something, it is okay to show your emotions, and it's good for that. So I'd probably say that was my most impactful moment.
Okay, yeah, I'll piggyback that a little bit too, because kind of backstory with that, and you kind of hit that a little bit with your father, but a few years prior, and I do mean years prior, I talked to you about there's going to be a day to where you need to forgive your father, and just as Jesus forgave us. And it's not about if we're deserving or not. It's just about, it's for you to be able to release that anger and bitterness so God can use you. And I remember you looking at me and say that'll never happen. And I remember that day. I do. I remember that. I was wondering, because I didn't coach these guys of what to say. But that was a very impactful moment, because the way I remember it, we were sitting around making Missouri eggs, and you came around the corner, and we were knee deep in eggs and shells and bacon grease and kids running around everywhere. And Kyle walks around the corner, and tears are flowing down his face, and he just walks right up to me in the middle of this chaos, and just said, "I'm ready." And you just said, and I knew exactly what he meant. He says, "I'm ready to forgive my dad." And that was the moment where, not only that moment in time, but that was the moment in time where I began to see you change as an individual, how your heart changed toward others, how your heart changed on CTO outings, how your heart changed at your school, with your friends, your community, even with me, where it's just your relationship with Christ has started to develop, and you started maturing. And I've told that story before, all across the nation before, about just, there always comes a point in time where we got to release things and to be able to forgive those who have wronged us in our life. And it's a classic example of Jesus, how he forgave us, even though we didn't deserve it. So that's awesome, bud. I appreciate that story. Yep. Who's next? Parker?
All right, so my name's Parker, and I got involved with CTO whenever I was, I think, 9 years old. It wasn't very big yet. I mean, I was one of the first people to kind of get involved, me and these guys. And the first outing I ever went in on was we went to Kirk's family property in Bourbon, and it was in the winter. It was muzzleloader season, and we were good. We went to chop some firewood, and all the boys were kind of taking cracks at it with a splitting maul. And like I said, I was 9 years old, and I kind of a chubby little kid, and probably a little bit of a wimp.
No comment, guys. No comment.
And Kirk hands me a splitting maul, and I go trying to chop this log, and it just, for I don't know how long I was at it, maybe an hour, maybe more.
that maul was just bouncing off of the log, and I couldn't even lift it all the way. I was hitting it sideways. I was hitting it with the flat side, and I wanted to give up, but nobody let me. Kirk told me to keep going, and eventually, and this log was splintered down to nothing. It was knotty, and I swung that maul over my head, and I gave like a war cry, and I split it right down the middle. And that moment was really big for me, and it's definitely, when I think of like becoming a man and growing up, that's like the first thing that comes to my mind, even outside of CTO. It's just that moment was really huge.
Yeah, and I remember that moment like it was yesterday too, and just for all those who are listening, I can just see it right now. There's some people out there going, "You handed a splitting maul to a 9-year-old kid. What are you doing?" Right? That is just something in CTO that we obviously teach and equip and do it properly. And your dad was there watching it the whole time too, and just to see those things happen and evolve. We allowed you to struggle, and it was everything within me to not to want to take that from you and split that thing for you, and just say, just let me have it, son. I'll take care of it. But everything within me, the Lord, the Holy Spirit was just saying, let him struggle, and little did I have any idea that when we asked you an impactful moment in CTO, that here we are many years later, and you talk about that moment in time, that was an important time in your life of just confidence in who you were in Christ, who you were in CTO, who you were as a person, as a young man. And I think it's a powerful moment in time where God just taught you to persevere in life. And I'm sure there's been many times in your life you've had to persevere and push through, and going back to that moment in time, God taught you something pretty powerful there. So that's a great story, man. And again, I didn't coach these guys to tell these stories, but I literally know every one of these stories from them, and I'm surprised I haven't got emotional already just listening to y'all talking. And if we had long enough time on this podcast, I'm sure we would get to some of those moments too. But anyway, appreciate it, brother. All right, Will, tell us your...
Well, I'm William, and started in CTO at the summer camp of 2015. I really have two major impactful moments that I'd like to share. The first one being whenever Kirk baptized both Kyle and I in the Brazil Creek, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. In a thunderstorm, of all things. It was perfectly safe.
I forgot about that part.
But it was impactful for the intensity of the situation. And looking back on that was a major turning point in my relationship with Christ, and taking the moment to realize the significance of it, and having the opportunity and the availability to do that, because that was not on the agenda for the week. No. And then also further down the road, being an apprentice guide for Young Bucks Camp, reinvesting our time and some of the different things we've been given to give back to these little kids, and to teach them to shoot, to teach them to use archery, implements, things of that, go up punishment path and carry rocks that are just seemingly impossible tasks, and then watching these little boys overcome them. That's just such an impactful moment, even as I'm a father now, knowing that this is something I want from my son, that I've already had discussions with my wife, and while she might be timid, she knows that these are great things that are to come. So that's what I have for. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
But
that I know you all went up punishment path a lot, and for those of you who know, we named it punishment path, and not to use it as a punishment. That was kind of the beginning mindset, but what it really was, it's a steep hill that goes straight up a hill, and the top of it there's a cross, and it's resembling the punishment that Christ took for us. And to this day, there's a pile of rocks up there that symbolizes sin and burdens and just life and things and bitterness and anger and things that young boys and men have gotten rid of. It's a symbol. It's just a rock, but each one of those rocks meant what that was, and then we laid it at the foot of the cross. And when you lay it at the foot of the cross, it symbolizes what Christ did for us. And I carried many rocks up that. You guys probably don't even know this, but I carried rocks up there when I was there by myself at times. I just did the same type of things. And I think every one of you at one point in time, Punishment Path 2 going up was, we even did some logs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Several 100-pound
Yes.
logs, and had to do it as a group or two or three and help. And
We had to do it twice that week.
you really?
Yes.
Yeah, you remember that?
Carried
Okay.
one by myself.
I was
remember.
going to say, I was thinking Will might have even carried one by himself. I have to admit, when you all did that, I actually was really nervous inside about all that because, of course, I was concerned about, because it was slippery and there were some steep parts and there's rocky parts. But again, that's what one of CTO's, if you want to call it your secret sauce or whatever you want to call it, we allow boys to be boys. And sometimes you're going to get a little scratch or two and a little bump or two along the way. And it just teaches us, it's not about perseverance with us, it's about persevering with Christ, utilizing Him to empower and to strengthen us to get to the top of Punishment Path, to get to give up control in our lives and giving it to God, and to allow Him to take over for us. And that's hard, man. There's not a person listening here right now, guys, that's sitting there going, especially men, young men, boys, older men are sitting there saying, I try to do so much on my own power. And I, to this day, as will be 54 this May, and yeah, I know. And I still try to do so much through my own power. Jennifer, my wife Jennifer, will call me the white knuckler, because I just white knuckle everything. I'm going to push through it regardless of what it is, no matter how painful it is or how hard it is. And the reality is that's not what the Lord has for us. He doesn't want us to white knuckle it. He wants us to lay at the foot of the cross and just give it up. And I've watched all of you guys do that, not just when you're younger, but even now. Doesn't mean that you or I are perfect in our lives right now. We just are understanding that we're in need of a Savior. So, all right. Any other stories? I asked for one. If you got another one, I'll let you give one. If not, we're going to go into some fun stuff too.
Not super special like that.
Okay. But you got thoughts in your head. You're debating on whether to say them or not.
I could share another one.
Okay, share another one.
And this is on in the hog hunts,
Okay.
or the hog camp we used to do. Seeing the first sunset in Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
That was just beautiful. And without CTO and the opportunities they have, I never would have seen that. Never would have been to Oklahoma to hunt hogs.
Okay.
And
cool.
that was a major impact in my life, as far as there's more than just Southwest Missouri. So
It's more than just your backyard.
right. So that was a really cool experience.
Okay, so just traveling in itself.
Traveling and then getting gone for a week. So
I never
novelty of
never
that.
would have thought that. That's cool.
as a we were 16,
Yeah.
17.
I was 17.
Yeah.
You guys were 16.
So that was a really, really neat, impactful experience to see.
Wow. And I know, Parker, you said you started in CTO when you were 9.
I think 9, and
I
then
knew
my
you
first
were-
outing I was 10.
Yeah. And then you started when you were
10 or 9.
but you kind of started a little later, right?
Yeah. I was summer camp of 2015, so yeah, I would have been 14 then.
14. So you started a little later. Okay. I was thinking you were in with them, but that's cool though that they'd been involved. You got plugged in, and you always became such close friends. That in itself is something that I would say. You talk about that plaque behind you there. It says the boys. I would put another word and just say brotherhood. of what you three have, and there were several other boys that came here and
Adopted some.
and you adopted some. You allowed them into the club when it came to that, and it was a big deal. I mean, these guys just came and just showed up. I mean, they didn't have to ask. I just came and they would be here. And it was no big deal that at all. And this was their place to be, and their safe house if they needed it, and a place that they could have fun, let their hair down, get a little workout in, talk, watch a good movie or whatever, and just hang out and just talk about life. There has been a lot of conversations in this place right here, and been quiet the last couple of years for the most part. But there's still been a lot of good conversation. It's just been a little different when it comes to that. So, all right. Tell me then, something we always ask when we interview anybody in CTO, what was probably one of your most funnest or funniest or whatever that may be? I know you guys got a lot of these.
Well, why don't you start us off?
In terms of what it is, because I just know these guys well enough to know that they got a lot of these, I'm sure. So,
Well, I'll probably go with my first outing. It's pretty funny looking back on it, hindsight, but it was my first CTO outing. Kirk promised me he was going to be there, and he lied. I had some resentment towards him for that too. I just want to make that known.
Which one was it?
This was the coon hunt.
Coon hunt. All right, I was getting ready to say, are you talking about the coon hunt? All right.
From a kid who knows cattle and horses to the ends of the earth, I never did anything hunting related or anything like that. And long story, I had to get into CTO around, so I was going to military school basically. And so my mom got me plugged in with Jen and Kirk, and in the beginning, I didn't like Kirk because he actually made me do things. And he's like, "You're going to go on this coon hunt. You're going to have a blast." I'm like, "No, I'm not." I'm like, "I don't want to go." He's like, I'm going to be there. I promise. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a great time.
I don't remember the promise part, but you know.
Oh, I remember. Still traumatized to this day.
I left you in good hands with a good CTO guide.
So we get going, and my grandpa let me borrow his coveralls, and they were so big on me. They drug over my boots and all that, and they were so baggy. I was a lot smaller then, believe it or not. And they just release these dogs. You just hear these hounds bark and all that, and they're like, "All right, they treed one. Let's go." We're just running through the middle of the woods with very few lights, and the guide is holding the gun. Like, "Come on, we got to catch up to the dogs. We got to go." I'm like, I'm never doing this again. It just in the middle of the night, it's pitch black out. We're just chasing some dogs. No telling what else is going to get us. And
so basically, you're saying you were scared.
Yeah, I was. I was very scared. And we finally get to where the dogs are. They got this coon treed, and they're just up there barking. And look up, and they hand me this gun, and I'm like, "Where do I shoot it?" And they tell me where, shot placement and all that, and I shoot it. Well, it doesn't come down. So they hand the gun to the next kid to let him have a shot. He shoots it. He misses. They hand me the gun again. I shoot it. It falls to the ground. And I mean, these dogs do their thing, shaking it, doing the death roll and all that. Well, the guide, he picks up the dead coon, hands it to me. I'm like, I'm not holding that thing. I'm not. I'll mess with cattle and horses, but you hand me something dead that I haven't messed with before that looks mean, I'm not messing with it. They got me to hold the coon.
I can totally see you do it. Like,
I was out like this. I was stiff arming it, and we're walking out of the woods to go find another coon or something, and its nerves were still kicking in, and it did a twitch and a slight growl, and I dropped that sucker faster than you could believe. And all these guys, they're laughing and all that. They're like, "He's not going to get you," and all that. I'm like, "I'm not." So from the rest of that trip, I did not hold the coon.
I hadn't heard that part of the story. So
they let me hold the dogs. I chose I was going to hold the dogs back instead of mess with the coon. But
I don't remember why I ended up not. Something had to have come up or something. And because honestly, I hadn't done much of that either. I was excited about going, and I wasn't about to let you out of going. And that,
but you left me.
but in good, capable hands.
But ended up finding out that the other kids I was with I went to school with both of them, or 2 out of the 3 other kids. And one of them's actually one of my good friends to this day still, John Smith. He was on that coon hunt, and Ryan Keith and Kyle Keith were on that hunt as well. Yeah. So it ended up, I ended up knowing the people, but I didn't want to go because he told me he was going to be there, and then he flaked. So that's my story.
That's your story. Of course, he's got to bring up something that where I failed somewhere in that. So, all right, Parker, what about you, man?
All right, my story will be a few stories, and I guess I can tie it in sentimentally at the end. But so we mentioned earlier how I have a stand named after me, and
actually a couple of them.
It's kind of an area. It's like a Parker's Holler or something like that. But
Parker's Ridge.
Yeah, Parker's Ridge. But the first namesake, I guess, is. We were on that. It was the same muzzleloader hunt that I split the log, and I was with my dad, and Kirk had dropped us off at the bottom of the ridge below the stand that would later be called Parker's Stand. And after about half an hour before dark, and we saw all these does come out in the field, and I had the muzzleloader, and I aimed at one of the does, and Kirk had told us the muzzleloader sighted in for 100 yards, and I was like, "Is it good, Dad?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's good." And so I put it right on her shoulder, and I squeeze the trigger off, and she just stands there. And I was like, I don't know if she's just about to tip over or not. And we watched her for about 2 minutes, and then she just kind of starts eating again. And so obviously I missed, and my dad gets the little reloading tube, to reload the muzzleloader, and he tips it, and he drops the powder pellets all the way to the bottom of the stand. So we have no more reloads, and at that point, these does started coming in, and they fed all the way from and we stepped it off. It was about 200 yards where I shot the doe, and
that's why you missed.
Yeah, that's why I missed, and they started feeding under the tree, literally under the tree. We could have spit on them, and I was just sick, and my dad felt so bad, and Kirk came to pick us up, and he's like, "Well, I heard you shoot," and we told him the situation. He was like, "Well, now I know to never give somebody just one reloading tube again." And
I need to give you 3 or 4.
Yeah,
at least Parker anyway.
And then the next morning, I sat on the ridge that became, Parker's Stand, and a doe came in, and it was actually snowing a little bit, and I shot at her, and she just took off running, and we thought I hit her, and we couldn't find anything, and so that was that was the end of that. And then a couple years later, I started to bow hunt, and I liked that stand, and that time we did a boys bow hunt at opening weekend of bow season every year at Bourbon, and it was always a good time, and I always sat right there. And we had Kirk had killed a big bear that year, that spring or something like that, and he had brought some steak to make, and he had made it in the crock pot, and it was cream and mushroom soup in the steak, and I had the guide with me, and he that morning he was just his tummy was rumbling. He had to get down, and he walked off behind me. He's like, "I got to go to the bathroom," and because that bear stew had upset his stomach, and no joke,
Kirk's cooking.
Yep. And so no joke, he had gone out of sight. I watched him walk all the way back behind me, and he'd gone out of sight. As soon as he goes out of sight, I hear leaves start crunching, and I look in front of me, and there's a doe, and she's about 30 yards away, and there's a branch, and I was like, well, I was hunting with this guide for a reason. It was because I was still probably 13 years old, and 12 or 13 years old, and I needed to have somebody with me to kind of calm me down, calm my nerves if I was to shoot at a deer with a bow. And we'd done like the accuracy test where I had to do push-ups and run a lap and then shoot the bow at the target, and I'd passed But anyways, I didn't have my guide with me, and so I was getting kind of amped up, and I knew if he came back, he'd scare the deer off. And so I pulled back, and she was about 30 yards, and I released the arrow, and there's this branch, and it hung down. And if you were to look straight at the deer, you wouldn't see anything obstructing her. But the arch of the arrow hit this branch, and obviously it hit the branch, and it just fell to the ground. And she took off running. I had missed the arrow, hit the branch, and fell.
Hence Parker stand.
Yep. So that's 3 deer right there that I missed from that stand. So it became dubbed Parker stand. And I'll tell you, I've hunted there since and everything, but I've never actually killed a deer in Parker stand. And among other outings, I had missed deer with my bow. It was kind of I don't know if I'd say like a sore subject, but maybe because I couldn't really. I could shoot targets just fine, but I'd get down in the moment, and I would just forget everything, forget every step on what I need to do, and
It was the bow.
and I'd missed, and I would miss, and something would happen. A couple of times the deer jumped the string, or I'd just blow the shot completely, and just every single time, and it really got my confidence really down. And we had whenever we acquired the CTO property, we started moving that boys bow hunting trip to going out there, and I sold my old bow and I bought a new one from Kyle, and we'd got it dialed in. We'd been shooting it for a couple weeks, and it was Kyle actually got the day off work on the actual opening day, and he killed a buck out there, and him and Kirk, and that was really special to him because he'd never killed a buck. But then came the weekend, and we all started going out there, and I sat there, and I'd seen a deer like way off down, and I couldn't get on her. She was way too far away. So, and I just told myself that whole morning. It was a beautiful morning. It was September. It was in the 30s or 40s, and it was a really beautiful morning. And I was like, I'm not gonna forget like every single step this time. And sure enough, I saw a deer like kind of sneaking in down this path, and I had ranged every single tree pretty much, and she stopped right about 26 yards, and I had shot, and that arrow hit her right behind the shoulder. And I knew she was dead, and I heard her crash, and I texted the group chat, and I was like, I just killed the deer with the bow. And everybody was like, are you sure? Because there's a few times where I thought I had, and I'd have ended up missing or do whatever. But sure enough, everybody came up there after, about 11 o'clock, and we started tracking her, and she was dead down there. And it was a really huge moment. It felt like I got a monkey off my back. And so you can overcome stuff like that really easy, especially when you have people with you to support you. And that's just another one of those, kind of like the log, where it built me up as a man. So it's really awesome.
That's cool, because Parker's a great shot, actually, with a rifle, bow, the whole 9 yards. So it's not about that he wasn't good enough, but just and honestly, that's pretty rare for somebody to miss that much. It really is in CTO. That's why we teased him so much. But what's so neat and awesome about that is that's just another example of that perseverance. Just like the perseverance that God was teaching you when you're splitting wood or going up punishment path. And once again, it's just another moment where you take God as your partner, and you have people surrounding you to encourage you. Yes, I'm sure we chopped, we chopped at you pretty good too, having a good time with that, as boys can do sometimes. But you persevered, and since then have killed multiple other deer and had multiple other experiences and done so many exciting things. So I think that's an awesome story. I think so many times we hear all these awesome stories of shooting in your first shot and first deer and big bucks and all these types of things, but life sometimes just throws you curveballs, and sometimes you got to learn to hit the curve. You can't just hit the big old fat fastball.
Yep.
And that's exactly what you did. So that's awesome, bud.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You got one, Will?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So some of the funniest memories I have from any of the outings or summer camps or any of that is from summer camps with Wild Josh. Wild Man Josh.
Wild Man Josh.
And
Wild Man Josh is going to be listening to this, and he's going to be saying, "Why am I not on that podcast?"
maybe one day, Josh.
So we love you, Josh.
Oh yeah.
But you scare us. We don't know if we want you on this or not.
Call him Wild Man for a reason. And I don't remember exactly which night, but I remember it was the first time I'd really been around Josh. We were skinning hogs in the skinning shed there at Rafter F. And just watching Josh sing and skin a hog was the most funny thing I've ever seen. Oh, the guy kind of struggled to have a serious moment in general, but for Bigfoot and just all the stories he would tell, that was just hilarious.
That is hilarious.
And for him to be able to have the freedom to do that and to express whatever he was trying to express, we were just letting him do it. And then
Bobby's got a Josh story of him running up a tree when hogs were running through the woods, and he turns around and he's got the other kid next to him, and he turns around like, "Where'd Josh go?" And Josh is halfway up a tree because the hogs came and just split the tree.
And then some other funny memories are just every time we'd make Missouri eggs at summer camp, or attempt to make them, and just the chaos, the rather controlled chaos. Yeah, looking back now, that we never got food poisoning or no one got hurt. There was a method to it, but it's all funny looking back now.
Yeah, that is cool. There has been a lot of, we call them Missouri eggs because it's in Missouri, and then Texas would be Texas eggs or however you want to put it. And we all kind of have Missouri is probably the most plainest egg. Basically, it's a breakfast burrito, essentially, is what it is.
Kirk's cooking.
But my cooking's very plain. I don't do all the spicy stuff. So you guys do all the spicy stuff separately if you wanted it.
Yes, we do.
That's awesome, man. I love all of those types of stories because this is what CTO is, and this is how CTO is impactful. And we literally could go on for literally hours and hours. We still do when we see each other. I was just talking with some guys at church the other day, and next thing we knew, we were telling stories again of stuff from the past. And we know in CTO, as CTO grows all across the country, that, man, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of young boys that were just like you guys when you're 9 and 10, and they can't lift a split and maul, and they can't, they don't know how to cast a rod and reel, and they don't know how to do a proper shot placement. They don't understand that, and they maybe even never sat around a campfire, and are experiencing. They're afraid to touch a coon, they're afraid to touch a fish, whatever it may be. And we don't force those things. We just give them the opportunities to do these things because we know it's going to change their life. But more than anything, all this fun and hunting stories and the campfire times and in the deer stands, getting deer stands named after you to this day. That stand is going to always be Parker's stand or Parker's Ridge. To this day, my father, who's 80 plus years old, will say, "I'm going to the Parker's stand area," or whatever, and we all know where he's at. And those are things that'll be impactful, guys, when you're my age and when I'm my father's age. And it's a big thing for the heritage side of what we do. But more than anything, I just appreciate you guys being willing to come on and kind of tell a few of these stories. But just watching you guys grow as young men to being men and being godly men, it's been exciting to watch and to see your life evolve. And they all walked into the bunkhouse. I don't know when the last time y'all were in here together. And I think it was you, Will, said this place still smells funny, or still smells the same. It's got the same smell, because all it is just a garage with concrete floor. Yeah. You what?
I remember building
these walls. Yeah, you guys did. These are solid white pine walls. Yeah, you guys lifted these. These are part of what we walked up and down Punishment Path with. So doing all that, they helped build. I forgot you guys helped build this whole wall.
Yeah, I remember putting those up. Oh my gosh, that was a pain.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you guys had a lot of ownership to this bunkhouse right here, and I appreciate that. That's amazing. I honestly had kind of forgotten about that you guys were the guys who came out here and
Putting insulation.
did that. Yeah, insulation behind all these walls over here. Yeah, wow, that is cool. That is cool. Well, guys, is there any other stories that come to your mind, impactful stories or something that you'd like to share to our audience? Anybody out there, if there's a young man or a kid or a family or a mom or dad, Kyle's always got something to say.
I'd also like to note, it wasn't just deer Parker missed with his bow. There were a lot of claimed squirrels that we never found.
Yeah, I could tie that back in too. So that same weekend, I shot the doe with my bow, and it was. He's right. There's a lot of times that I would shoot a squirrel or shoot at a squirrel, and I'd be like, I just killed a squirrel with a bow, and we couldn't find it or whatever. And that would happen every single time I would go hunting, is I'd fling arrows at squirrels just out of boredom or whatever. But that same trip where I killed the doe, it was the morning after, and I was just kind of sitting there at a different stand, and this squirrel came up in the tree kind of adjacent to me, and I was like, well, like I already killed my deer, so I mean I don't care if I mess something up. So I drew on the squirrel and I shot, and I actually hit the squirrel in the vital organs, and it killed that squirrel right there. So yeah, that was the second monkey off the back at that hunt there.
The same hunt?
Yeah.
You got two monkeys off your back.
Yeah, exactly.
All in one time.
And he had proof that he killed it.
Yeah, I did. I had an actual squirrel, and I got back to the bunkhouse, and we had it for breakfast actually.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's good. That's one thing we do in CTO too. It's not just about the harvest, but we go through the whole process of cleaning and harvesting them, and then cleaning them and teaching them how to utilize that meat and go home with that meat. And in that case, got to eat that right there. So that is part of what we do too.
I got one more memorable story.
Okay.
So this was back in early 2011, I think. We're at Jerry Jones' property. Mm-hmm. It had just become 2011.
Okay, Buena Vista Ranch.
At Buena Vista Ranch. And deer hunting. I'd never killed a deer before. And so we're out there, and Kirk decided he was going to sit with me and this other kid named Noah. Hope he's doing good. If you're watching this, Noah, praying for you. But I remember sitting there, and Kirk's kind of like the geeky dad, getting the old camcorder out and like, all right, this is what we got going here. And then he like zooms in on your face at point blank.
I still got that. It's on a hard drive somewhere.
that video, I've seen that video a million times. Yeah.
You would not recognize me if you looked at the video today, but he goes, we got Kyle here, and he's got this baby face, almost kind of looks like a girl, you know, can't really tell. And then you got Noah back there, and then it cuts into the deer. And leading up to that, Kirk's like, are you on her? I'm like, so shaky, so nervous, like can't even get the scope to focus on her. I'm just everywhere. And he's like, you just got to breathe. He goes, but you got to get on her. And by the time I was finally ready, another doe had walked behind her. He goes, you can't shoot now. You got to wait. And I'm like, I was ready this time, man. Like, come on, I'm already shaking enough. And if you sit with me in the deer woods, you're going to know I shake, even if I'm not pulling the trigger. I guided this hunt on this guy, and the video footage is very shaky and heavily breathing.
Usually it's the kid we're like trying to focus on. We find ourselves focusing on Kyle. Kyle's doing this so much after the kid shoots the buck of his lifetime right here.
Yep. And so the does finally get clear, and he's like, this doe, she was sent from God for me to harvest, because she just stood there, I mean, just waiting for me to shoot her. I mean, for like what felt like minutes. And Kirk's like, you got your shot, you got her now? And I'm like, very hesitant, trying to get the scope on her. And you can hear in the video when I finally get her, he goes, well, take your shot. And we realized a little later that she was quartering towards, but I guess I had already known that because where I'd put the shot, or I pulled, who knows. But I pulled that trigger, and I mean, she just folded up right there. And he's so amped. Holy smokes, you just folded her and all that. And he zooms out and gets it on me. And I'm like, reality setting in that I had just shot this deer. And I'm like, holy crap, I just shot a deer.
You just shot a deer.
So for many years, I was known as the I just shot a deer kid, which was shared on almost every platform of CTO.
Yeah, we showed that at banquets, everything. And because the look on your face and you shaking, and you couldn't believe that you had just did that.
Right. Yeah, it was a very starstruck moment, and that really got me hooked. And for the first time watching a deer get gutted and, us pulling the skin off of it and all that was very new. And I remember Kirk, doing the warrior deal. You put your first blood on your face and all that. And he tried to get me to take a bite out of the heart, but that was just the step I wasn't willing to take yet.
Just teasing on that. But that is another great story, because that is one of the things that we love in CTO. We love to give that young boy that first moment, that first harvest, that first squirrel, that first rabbit, that first deer, that first turkey, that first fish. We love those moments, and the moment Kyle specifically talking about, that was his first deer, and he just couldn't believe what he had just accomplished and what just he had done. And when you have those moments, because we do talk a lot about that, but the reality is where the true transformation happens, you take that and we go through all those emotions, all those process. We pray over that animal, thank God for that animal, take it back, do the whole hard processing, the whole 9 yards, and then later you're processing the story and telling it, there I was, and you tell your whole story. But then we're sitting around a campfire, and there's just something about when you just accomplish something like that, and you have your brothers around you, and you're sitting around a campfire, and then you start praising God, or you start challenged with the question of the day or whatever it is. That's where that transformation starts happening, and that young man kind of starts giving up a little bit, and it's just due to those moments, and then that trust starts happening between you and your fellow brothers, and even with the leaders, and then God can do what he can do. Uh-oh, I just went out. God's speaking to us. That's Michael's way of saying we got to wind this down right now. But if anything that you guys can get out of this episode today is what my prayer for you guys is, that you see that, first of all, glory to God for utilizing CTO in their lives to help transform their lives, and they're telling stories about them even coming back and working at Young Bucks Camp, and they all did this and gave back to what was given to them when they were younger, and to understand that it's about a relationship with Christ and about giving back and serving others. And when you grasp that, we've done part of our job, and just introducing you guys to the outdoors and introduce you to a relationship with Christ. So appreciate you all being on here. Appreciate you guys being here and telling these stories. So I want to thank everybody for listening to us today and sitting around the campfire with us, and we will see you around the campfire on Wild Pursuits with Cross Trail Outfitters. Thank you for listening to Wild Pursuits with Cross Trail Outfitters. CTO is a hunting and fishing club with the mission of guiding the next generation to Christ through the outdoors. If you'd like to support us or are interested in getting involved, visit us on our website at teamcto.org. Links are in the description. Make sure to like and share our podcast. And join us next time around the campfire with Wild Pursuits.